Now, I'm no photographer, but I'm getting plenty of practice. Every step of building this road racer has to be documented for tech inspection at the track. The SCCA requires it, and they have volumes of rules and regulations you have to follow when doing that, unless you plan on going to NASA Outlaw class, which is what we plan to do. It's the closest thing to run what you brung. No engine limitations, wheelbase, tire size, drivetrain. Hey, make it as fast as you can. Our frame was built with common sense and safety in mind. Not many rules here. Our engine is a 351 Windsor, punched out the 408. Our body, a stripped out 65 Fastback. Now it's time to put in the roll cage, and that's where the leeway stops. Safety regulations are a top priority for all sanctioning bodies. So after studying the books, talking to some friends, talking to the experts, and showing my ignorance, I think I'm ready to start. Roll cages are based on points. A point is where the tubing secures to the chassis. This car is going to get a 14-point cage. We're going to start in the back. Our first two just behind the rear end. Our next two will be just in front of it. Two more for the main hoop. That gives us 6. A-pillar bars, 8. Engine compartment for a total of 10. Then we move back to the main hoop for 2 side impact bars. Then, helping support the rear suspension, we'll have 2 more in the middle of the car for a total of 14. That's not counting door bars or any other support bars. We'll start with the main hoop as close to the body as possible. Our protractor tells me a 68-degree bend will do just that, along with another bend at the top of the door, then down to the floor. The rules require 1 5/8" 120 wall DOM tubing. And this portable Irvin & Smith bender is plenty strong enough for it. How's that?
Looks good.
And as standard for every roll cage anywhere, the main hoop must be 1 section of tubing. Oh yeah, that's tight too. We'll put the other one like right in here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. There's a ton of different ways and theories on how to bend tubing. Right or wrong, I'm going to show you how we do it. It all starts with the bender and how much tube it eats up to make that bend. Every bender is different. Even the same size dies have some variances, so this step is crucial. With a 90-degree bend, measure the inside from each end of the bend, then the outside, so you can determine the length of the center of the tube. And that's how much steel it takes to make a 90-degree bend. We know it was 12 inches from end to end, so the center of that is 6. If you want to do a 45, come in 3 inches. This is the theory we use to do all of our bends. All you got to do is practice. Go out and get a tubing bender. Who knows? You might make some extra dosh doing cages for your friends. 1 1/4, we're not pulling 90. Even though our theory is simple, you may want a calculator as well. That's our first bend. Multiple bends at different degrees on a single tube can get complicated. Oh, we're geniuses. You know that, right? You know that. Outstanding. And we got enough room to get the stinger up there. Let's weld it. Slide your back a little bit, Brent. Right there. Hold what you got. All right. Here we go. Watch your eyes. The entire cage is only tacked in place for now. When it's all put together, it needs to be inspected and stamped by a certified SCCA inspector. Our next bar is our halo. It attaches to the main hoop, runs forward, makes a 90, across, another 90 and back. So that's going to be 2 90s we got to pull. So that's going to be how many inches from the bend? That's right, 6. Never cut your stock to the exact length. I don't know anybody that good, and if you do, they're lying. It's cheaper to waste the trimmings than to start over with a new piece of stock. Yes, there are plenty of tools that'll notch tubes, but this, for me, is a great mental enema. Right down a little. Watch your eyes. This is not a speaker hole. The A-pillar bars are next. They mount from the frame up to the halo. These 6 bars are the heart of your roll cage, because all the rest play off of them. If you don't get these right, you're jeopardizing your survival. 4 points down, 10 to go after the break. Glad to see you stayed with us, because we got a long way to go. We're in the middle of building our 14-point roll cage for our Mustang Road Racer. To this point, we've got the main hoop done, the halo, and the A-pillar bars. Remember, this entire cage has to meet the safety specs set out by the SCCA. They're so serious about it that they're going to have somebody come in and inspect it and stamp it before I can weld it up. While you were gone, we tied the A-pillars together with some tubing and we ran it behind the dash. That also gives us a good mounting point for our pedals and our steering column, and these. And it'll go from the bar to the front frame horn. They limit the twisting caused by engine torque, the G-forces from racing, and keep the front end off your lap in case you start playing bumper cars. Now it's time to start working on the back portion of this roll cage, and it all centers on the rear end I just got in. Tiger rear ends built this based on the dimensions that we gave them. Now if you're into racing, you've seen a quick change before, but if you haven't, here you go. This center section is the heart of it all. Your drive shaft attaches to your yoke, which spins this shaft, which turns 2 interchangeable gears in here, which spins your pinion, which makes contact with your ring gear. Now, let me show you why they call this a quick change. These 2 gears determine your final ratio. If you're at the track, you want to swap them out, simply slide them out, slide in a new set. Something else that's really cool, we ordered 628s. All we got to do is flip-flop them, and we got a set of 269s. So let's do the math. They offer 24 sets of gears, each one of them giving you 2 ratios. That's 48 options you have to choose from. If you can't compete with that, you got a problem. Now for this application, we're going to run a spool. Unlike a posi, both wheels will turn the same speed all the time. Everything's been polished for less friction, which means less drag, and all the excess weight has been taken out. The axle tubes are steel, the bells are aluminum, and you can get them in magnesium. Putting it together is just too simple. The whole unit was designed to tear down quickly. Now we already know exactly where the rear end's going to go, so it's time to extend the frame rails to the rear of the body. But first I need to show you something. The rulebook even has a specific way to do a butt weld. They require that both ends of the tube be beveled. But if you're building a Mercedes, it would be called a chamfer. A 30 to 45 degree angle is what you're after. The reason, it gives you more surface to weld on. And you're not removing it when you grind it down. I'm gonna add some diamonds for additional strength. Rules or not, this is how it should be done anyway. Maybe it's just me, but the first major part I put on a project, it's better than donuts. Clamp it. This brace will mimic the ground, and the axle will be 13 inches from it. So what we made is this, to hold the rear end where it needs to be, and position it to the correct wheelbase length. Little more, little more. Then center it side to side, going, hold, and lock it in. All right, I've got 6 points down. I'm gonna do 4 more before I start my rear suspension. I'm gonna do 2 off the main hoop as far back as I can get them. Off of those, I'm gonna drop 2 straight down, right behind the rear end, and then 2 in front of the rear end. The long bars are roof supports and your best friends in case of a rear end collision. And to add support to their length, these down bars are a must. And now we'll tie the 2 together. This X is protection from side impact. And 2 more bars for extra insurance. Now that's a fair piece of business. Now later on in the show, we're going to tackle that rear suspension. The early Mustang has got to be one of the most popular platforms for the pursuit of speed with style. And nobody ever achieved that like Carroll Shelby did.
This week's MuscleCar Flashback, the GT 500 Cobra.
Mustang happened to Henry.
Ford put more than 1 million first-generation Mustangs on the road from 64 to 66. Everything from tame little 6-cylinders to Shelby race cars. They did a total redesign in 67 with room for a big block up front. That's about 180 footer right there. Business as usual for Joe Grogan's 68 GT 500. It's packing a Police Interceptor 428 and enough torque to spin those E70 by 15 Goodyears clean out of sight. The Interceptor was Ford's FE big block with a hot cam and a Holley 4-barrel, beefed up rods, and an aluminum intake manifold. Ford claims 360 horses, but we know they weren't telling us everything.
I like, how torquey it is, and I like 4-speed. It's fun to drive.
The second-generation Mustang looked just like the first, but they were a complete redesign. Bigger, stronger, and meaner. And they were even more muscular once Shelby got a hold of them. With the front end that looked like it'd bite your leg off, maybe it would. And 65 Thunderbird taillights for that stylish sequential flash. The lights aren't the only T-Bird parts on this beast. A tilt-away steering wheel has to be centered and both doors have to be closed before you can start it. Inside, there's a built-in roll bar, a fold-down back seat for those long nights to drive in, and a pass-through trunk so you can reach some refreshments. The side scoops open up on some of the GT 500s, but not all of them. And look at this road racing seatbelt. Perfectly safe if you can just get in it.
Comfortable?
No.
Muscle car guys know a Shelby when they see one, but the GT 500 is rare enough. Some of you younger car guys might think it's just another hot rod Mustang. That would be a mistake.
We don't race, but if somebody pulls up beside us on the street, at a stoplight, we might play with them a little bit. We'll go stoplight to stoplight, and we usually come out on top.
Ford made just over 3,000 GT 500s in '68, half of them with the Police Interceptor big block, the rest with the 428 Cobra jet. This one cost about $4,600 new. Today it's worth about $150,000. And Joe says he wouldn't trade it for one of Ford's new Shelby GTs, but if they give him 2 and a GT40, he might think about it. It's amazing that after 40 years, we're still chasing Carroll's accomplishments. We'll be back. We're back, and we've got just enough time to start our rear suspension. Now, I've showed you how to do 4-links for drag cars, but today I'm going to do a 3-link for road racing. Now, there's different designs between dirt and asphalt, so you better do your homework because it can get confusing. Here's our choice. AFCO came through with all the parts we ordered to give us the handling we need and the traction to get us there. And this is what we're going to build with them. We're going to start with some coilover shocks on each side, and then our first 2 links are going to mount underneath the rear end as close to the rear tires as possible for more stability. And then we're going to take our 3rd link, mount it on top of the rear end, and it's going to absorb the torque from the engine and transmission, which wants to make your rear end rock forwards and backwards and minimize it, giving you traction going into the turns and coming out of the turns. The wheel needs to be in place to position our brackets, which means some quarter panel removal is necessary. With 18-inch wheels and a low ride height, the bracket should be mounted above the rim. After setting the pinion angle at 0, I can tack in the lower bracket. With the arm parallel to the ground, I'll tack in the front brackets and box them in later. We made sure our X-bar left room for this adjustable rear end mount. Now it's time to install our torque link. It controls movement of the rear end forwards and backwards by this spring. If you need to adjust it, all you do is take this bushing off and there's a nut. You can loosen it or tighten it. I've seen guys carry several of these at different adjustments to save time at the track. There's a lot of push and pull from the third link, so the main hoop will be the anchor. With the torque link parallel to the ground as well, we'll add some more tubing to triangulate it, which gives it more strength, and to mount the adjustable bracket. And 2 more bars to the back of the frame. There you have it, a 3-link rear end. Now how to set it up and adjust it is a whole show in itself. As far as the roll cage goes, short of the door bars and some extra bracing that I want to put in, it's ready for the inspector, and he'll be here next week. So until then, later.